And we are so excited to have you guys here. I'm excited to show you guys how to make kimchi. It's a very simple recipe, and the best part about this is it's vegan, so it is friendly for all people. Super excited for you guys. So let's get into it. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go through all the ingredients. So ingredients that we're gonna talk about is gonna go from the top, our Napa cabbage. We need about 3 pounds of Napa cabbage. You can use a scale to measure this, or about close to 12" by 4" is a really good estimate. This large head that we had was about 6 pounds, so we cut it in half, and now we have enough for 2 recipes. Next, we're going to need 9 tablespoons of salt, or about close to a half a cup. We're going to need about 2 tablespoons of rice flour. So when it comes to rice flour, we use the Mochiko sweet rice flour. We're going to need about 1 1/4 cups of vegetable stock, so 1 cup for the sweet rice flour, and another 1/3 cup for the actual puree mixture we're going to be making later. So that's perfect. We're going to need 1 tablespoon of sugar that is going to go with the Mochiko sweet rice flour, and another teaspoon of sugar that is going to go with the for the paste. We're going to need 1 teaspoon of ginger. So just a little knob of ginger, big old piece of ginger for those who don't know what ginger looks like. We're going to need 1 medium onion chopped up. We're going to chop that up in a little bit. And then we're going to need a cup of, this is Korean hot chili peppers. They're all ground up. This is actually really awesome. I love this stuff. It's not as hot as you think it is, but also be very mindful we're using a cup, so this is for a big batch. So don't play around with this if you don't have to. Next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to need about 6 ounces of daikon radish, or any Korean radish that you can find. All of them work. We're going to need 3 ounces of garlic chives, which is right here. It has a really garlicky flavor. And then we're going to need 6 stems of green onion, which is, you can see right there, and about 1 large carrot stick. All right, guys, so let's get into it. The first step that we're going to be doing is going to be chopping up our cabbage. This is going to be a 2-hour process, so I imagine you do this maybe the day before, have it ready, or if you do it first thing in the morning and you're going to make it in the afternoon. But this is going to take about 2 hours to wilt down, so it's super important. So we're going to take out the root, and it's very simple. We're going to do that with a simple V. Cut, just like that. And that's going to take out the root. Now, if you still see a little bit of root, just chop it out. Super easy. I'm going to put this in our compost. All right, next thing we're going to do, we're going to cut this right down the center. And we're being careful, keeping the blade away from our hands. And we're going to cut this into 1-inch strips. Now, you can make it as small or as big as you want. Doesn't make a big difference. But the big thing is being consistent. You don't want it to be a little and then large. You want it to be consistent. All right. So we're going to be using a bus tub. You can use any large bowl, maybe even a roasting pan. They all will work. Then we're going to toss all of the cabbage into our bus tub. Now we're going to take our salt and we're going to sprinkle it in. Nice and easy. Get it all in there. And then we're going to go with our hands and we're going to kind of almost massage. And what the massaging does is it actually opens up the pores of the cabbage and make sure the salt gets in there. So it's kind of like a little crunching, but we're not trying to like mush it. Just a little massage. Just massage that salt in. Now you're going to notice there's going to be a lot of liquid at the end of this. Super important. We really want to kind of create the osmosis of the salt going in and taking out any extra water that we don't need. And you're going to notice automatically there's a lot of liquid coming out. So that's important. If the process is going, and then we're going to let this sit for 2 hours and we're going to be ready to go. So 2 hours, keep it covered put it someplace cool, good to go. All right, so the next step we're gonna be doing is we need to make our paste, and it's a very easy kimchi paste to make. First thing we're gonna do is get a little saucepan. We're gonna turn it on to about close to medium-high heat. So if you're using an induction plate like we are, it's gonna be about 390. We're gonna be adding in our vegetable stock, the 1 cup of vegetable stock, our 2 tablespoons of rice flour, the sweet rice flour, the mochiko, and the 1 teaspoon or tablespoon of sugar. All right, so next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna keep mixing this until it becomes kind of a thick paste. And this is super important. This is gonna give a lot of body, but it's also gonna help with bacterial growth for our fermentation process. So you can use a whisk, you can use a pair of chopsticks, you can use a fork, but we're just gonna get it till it starts to become nice and thick. This process should take about 2 to 3 minutes. You can kind of see it's starting to get thick. That is a process, this is really quick, like I said. All right. This actually got a lot faster. Remember, just keep it moving. Once it starts thickening up like this, actually I think it's pretty good to go. So we're ready to go. We're gonna turn this off, and then we're gonna start making the everything in the food processor. We'll be back in a second. All right, so this next part is gonna be super simple. I want to teach you guys quickly how to peel ginger without actually using a peeler. It's a really quick way, especially when you're in a pinch or you're trying to get things done. It's very simple. All we're gonna do is we're gonna cut a flat side of our ginger right down, and then all we're gonna do is just kind of peel around with our knife. All this little scraps we can save. And there you go, nice and easy. Save it for a little tea. You can use it in your compost, or just wear off the people. Sorry. So you just put this into your scraps, keep it on the side, throw it in the freezer, and then anytime you need to use ginger, it's a very easy additive, especially for marinades. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a puree, and it's a very simple process. We're gonna need a food processor. We're gonna chop this up and kind of give it a little bit of help. I understand food processor does a lot of chopping, but in the same sense, you don't wanna wear out the motor. Just give it a quick chop and you're good to go. So we have our ginger in there. 9 cloves of garlic. We're gonna put in our 1/3 teaspoon of sugar. And then our regular onion is gonna go in. In big chunks. And again, we cut it down smaller so the food processor has an easier time pureeing all these things. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add in our other 1/3 of vegetable stock. And start the pureeing process. All right, so we're gonna start on low, and now we're gonna go on high. All right, now it's time to add in our the rice the rice flour and the vegetable stock mixture. We're gonna be adding that in. Make sure we use a rubber spatula because again, we wanna get every bit of that out. It's gonna be super important we use a high temp because again, this is super hot. So we don't want our spatula melting into our mixture. Now, remember, nice and clean, don't waste anything. So next, put it on. And again, we're gonna start on low. And now we're gonna go on high to really make sure it's pureed. So that should be it. So we're gonna need a big bowl because we're gonna be mixing in our chili flakes into our mixture. So we got our Korean chili flakes, and then I'm gonna pop this off, and then we have our puree mixture. Beautiful. Beautiful. So now we're just gonna mix it all together. Be very careful because it is onions in there and you can start crying. So keep your head back a little bit. But once that's all there, this looks actually really good. Kind of see, nice, beautiful red texture. That's what we want. We're gonna put this on the side. We're gonna do our internal garnishes and then we're gonna mix everything together. All right, it's been about 2 hours now. Our cabbage is now nice and wilty. We did a double batch because we're gonna do about 6 of these 16-ounce mason jars. Now, the great thing about this recipe is once it's done, you can eat it, and it's delicious, it's amazing, or you can actually wait about close to, I wanna say, about 2 weeks after you mason jar them, put them in the fridge, and it'll be nice and ready to go. What big thing is when you taste it, it should be a little bit sour, it should be a little bit funky. I think it's gonna be pretty delicious no matter what. So let's get into making our internal garnish before we actually start rinsing off anything. So we're gonna be needing, of course, our peeler, a box grater, and you can use a knife to do your matchsticks, but I think it's way easier to just grate everything, and it's more consistent. So we're going to peel our carrot. Super easy. Now it's super important we peel all of our ingredients because the peels do carry bacteria that can actually make your kimchi go bad. So we want to just peel it, and we don't have to worry about any extra bacteria. Put it into our compost. Beautiful. Cut the top, cut the bottom. And now we're going to simply grate into our bowl. Now be very mindful, box graters are just as sharp as knives. So we're going to be careful of our fingers. And once it gets a little bit, you have a little snack. All right, we're going to do the same thing for the daikon. Give it a good peel. You see I'm peeling into the cutting board away from my fingers, making sure my fingers stay safe. All right, so now we're going to grate our daikon in with our carrot. And that is going to be it when it comes to grating both our root vegetables. All right. Beautiful. Next, we're going to do our internal garnish of green onions. So what we're going to do, take our knife, get our entire bunch down. We're going to cut this in a bias at a large angle. So again, making sure our fingers are nice and tucked. Now you can cut it any way you want, whatever you feel comfortable. You want to make it look a little bit fancier, coming in at an angle, gives you more of that diamond shape cuts. And we're going to use all of our green onion, going all the way down to the white root. Now, if you're planning to regrow these, this would be the point in which you would stop and you would go and put these into some dirt and regrow them, or in some water. They will totally work just in water. But we're going to go all the way through. None wasted. Beautiful. All So if you got these little bits, just give them one quick chop. Super easy. All right. These go into our bowl. It's nice and oniony. And now we're going into our garlic chives. Now, these ends right here, these white ends, we're going to cut it off because they are mostly dirty. And again, we don't want to introduce any unwanted bacteria into our kimchi. And then all we're going to do is nice and fine our garlic chives. Now this doesn't have to be perfect. Again, we're just taking our time. Going through the entire bunch. You can really smell that garlic flavor. Now a lot of these ingredients that you are seeing today, we can actually get these from a store called H Mart. They have them in Beaverton, we have one in Southeast Portland, and they also have one, I believe, in Tigard as well. So this will be a really good place to get all of our ingredients for our kimchi if you want a one-stop shop, and it's relatively really super affordable. So, this is all of our internal garnishes, complete, ready to go. We're gonna keep this to the side. Now let's get into doing our cabbage. All right, this next part is gonna be super important. We're gonna get some gloves on because again, we don't wanna introduce any unnecessary bacteria into our mix. Now you're gonna see that our cabbage has a lot of extra liquid. You can actually kind of see a bunch of liquid on the bottom. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a lot of this salt out because this is gonna be super salty at this time. So we're gonna throw it in some cold water. Nice and easy. And it's super important, use something that's super big. You can do this in a sink where you just rinse it. Just make sure you sanitize your sink with a little bit of bleach water, or some sanitizing solution, lemon juice or vinegar works really well. But just make sure there's no unwanted bacteria and it's nice and clean. All right, so we're gonna give this a quick kind of massaging, coaxing out all that extra salt. And then we're gonna give it a quick squeeze. Now in this next bin, I actually put a grate in there, you can kind of see, to let any extra water escape, because we need this to drain a little bit. Beautiful. All right, so I'm gonna put this aside. I'm gonna let all this extra water drain, and then we're gonna start the mixing of all of our ingredients. And we are gonna be finishing this off. I'm super excited because this is gonna be super fun and it's super simple. So, in here, we have our internal garnish that we chopped up, grated up, made it all happy. We're gonna add this into our cabbage that has been drained and washed. It looks good. We're gonna give that a quick mix. Oh, it smells good. Beautiful. All right, so you can see, nice and beautifully mixed. Next, we're gonna add in our paste. Our kimchi paste, nice viscous. Remember it has the sweet rice flour in there. Again, we're using our gloved fingers. And we're gonna mix. And you can kind of see the iconic red color of kimchi. Looks good. All right. So once it's really well mixed, beautiful. We're gonna take our mason jars. We have our wide mouth funnel. And all we're gonna do is stuff our kimchi into the funnel. Now, super important, you want to leave some room at the top to let any liquid that's going to be forming and gases that are going to be forming to build up. You do not want this to be completely full, or it could explode. And we don't want that. That can be very dangerous, especially if you have little ones around. So that one's a little too much. Beautiful. Right there. Now this is super important. We're going to make sure we push out all the extra air pockets in here. Super important. We don't want those extra air pockets. So now we are here at the point where we're going to talk a little bit about how to store all this. So I'm going to be fermenting these three on the countertop for about 3 days. So the big thing with this is we want to make sure that the cap is kind of loose, so it has a little wiggle for any escape gases, but we do not want this to be fully tight. Now these, I'm going to put in the fridge and they're going to ferment slowly for the next 3 weeks. We're going to compare which one is better in about a couple weeks live on Instagram. So we're going to try this real quick. I'm going to grab my handy dandy chopstick. We're going to see how it is. Oh man, can't wait for this. That is amazing. That's really good. It was quick, it was easy, you have it done in 1 day, so if you ever want to make kimchi, this is definitely the recipe you should try.